According to the National Electrical Code, NEC, electrical panels must be located at least 30 inches away from water sources, including sinks, bathtubs, and water heaters. Therefore, if a new breaker box is placed in the same location as the old one, which is only 16 inches from the water heater, it would not comply with the NEC. If you need to move the breaker box, you should follow these guidelines. Firstly, the new location should be at least 30 inches away from any water source. Secondly, the lead line from the utility can extend up to 50 feet before it must enter the breaker box. However, it is recommended to keep the distance as short as possible for safety and efficiency. There are other considerations to keep in mind. 1. The breaker box should be easily accessible for inspection and maintenance. 2. Ensure that the new location provides adequate ventilation to prevent overheating of the panel. 3. Contact your local building department for any necessary permits and inspections. Given the limited space in the laundry room, it might be necessary to move the breaker box further away from the water heater. You could consider installing the new panel on the opposite wall, as far away from the water source as possible, while still maintaining accessibility and code compliance. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, sets the standard for safe electrical installations. Adhering to the NEC is not just about passing inspection, it's about ensuring the safety of yourself, your family, and your property. Therefore, when replacing a breaker box, understanding and implementing the NEC guidelines is crucial. When dealing with electrical installations, especially something as critical as a breaker box, it's important to understand key terminology. A breaker box, also known as an electrical panel or service panel, is the central distribution point for electricity in a building. It receives power from the utility company and distributes it to various circuits throughout the building. Each circuit is protected by a circuit breaker, which is designed to trip and cut off power if it detects an overload or short circuit, preventing fires and other hazards. A water heater is a device that heats water for domestic use. It can be electric, gas, or solar powered, and it's a common appliance in most homes. Because water is a conductor of electricity, the proximity of a water heater to electrical components like a breaker box poses a significant safety risk. The incoming lead line, also known as the service entrance cable, is the cable that brings electricity from the utility company's transformer to the breaker box. It's typically a heavy gauge cable designed to carry a large amount of current. The length and routing of this cable are also subject to NEC regulations to ensure safety and prevent voltage drop. Code compliance refers to adhering to the rules and regulations set forth by the NEC and local building codes. This includes proper installation techniques, appropriate materials, and required clearances. Compliance is essential for ensuring the safety and reliability of electrical systems, as well as for obtaining necessary permits and inspections. Now let's delve deeper into the specific NEC requirements related to breaker box placement near water sources. The primary concern is the risk of electric shock. Water is an excellent conductor of electricity, so if there's a fault in the electrical system and someone comes into contact with both a water and a live electrical component, they could receive a severe, potentially fatal electric shock. To mitigate this risk, the NEC mandates a minimum clearance distance between electrical panels and water sources. This clearance distance is typically 30 inches, measured horizontally. This means that the breaker box must be located at least 30 inches away from any water source, including sinks, bathtubs, showers, and water heaters. The 30-inch rule is not arbitrary. It's based on extensive research and analysis of electrical safety hazards. It's designed to provide a reasonable buffer zone to prevent accidental contact with water while working on or near the electrical panel. It's important to note that the 30-inch clearance is a minimum requirement. In some cases, it may be necessary to increase the clearance distance to ensure adequate safety. For example, if the breaker box is located in a damp or humid environment, it may be wise to increase the clearance distance to account for the increased conductivity of the air. What happens if the breaker box is closer than 30 inches to a water source? In this case, the installation would not comply with the NEC. This could result in a failed inspection, and it could also pose a significant safety risk. If the breaker box is found to be too close to a water source, it must be relocated to a compliant location. Moving a breaker box is not a simple task. It involves disconnecting the electrical service, rerouting wiring, and remounting the panel. It's also important to ensure that the new location meets all other NEC requirements, such as accessibility and ventilation. Because of the complexity and potential hazards involved in moving a breaker box, it's generally recommended to hire a qualified electrician to perform the work. A qualified electrician has the knowledge, skills, and experience necessary to safely and correctly relocate the panel, ensuring that it meets all applicable codes and regulations. In addition to the minimum clearance distance from water sources, the NEC also has requirements regarding the length and routing of the incoming lead line. The lead line is the cable that brings electricity from the utility company's transformer to the breaker box. It's typically a heavy gauge cable designed to carry a large amount of current. The NEC allows the lead line to extend up to 50 feet before it enters the breaker box. However, it's generally recommended to keep the distance as short as possible for safety and efficiency. A longer lead line can result in voltage drop, which can reduce the performance of electrical appliances and equipment. It can also increase the risk of overheating and fire. The lead line must be properly supported and protected from physical damage. It should be routed in a way that minimizes the risk of accidental contact or damage from vehicles, equipment, or other hazards. It should also be protected from exposure to moisture, chemicals, or other corrosive substances. In addition to the specific requirements related to water sources and lead lines, the NEC also has general requirements for breaker box accessibility and ventilation. The breaker box must be easily accessible for inspection and maintenance. This means that it should not be obstructed by furniture, equipment, or other items. There should be sufficient space in front of the panel to allow for safe and comfortable working conditions. The breaker box must also be adequately ventilated to prevent overheating of the panel. Overheating can damage the circuit breakers and other components, and it can also increase the risk of fire. Ventilation can be provided by natural airflow or by mechanical means such as a fan. It's important to ensure that the ventilation system is properly sized and maintained to provide adequate cooling. Finally, it's important to remember that any electrical work, including replacing a breaker box, requires a permit from the local building department. The permit process ensures that the work is performed in accordance with applicable codes and regulations. It also provides for inspection by a qualified electrical inspector, who can verify that the installation is safe and compliant. Before starting any electrical work, contact the local building department to obtain the necessary permits and schedule an inspection. Failure to obtain a permit can result in fines, delays, and even legal action. The electrical inspector will typically review the plans for the installation and conduct a physical inspection of the work to ensure that it meets all applicable requirements. If any deficiencies are found, the inspector will issue a correction notice, which must be addressed before the installation can be approved. Replacing a breaker box is a complex and potentially hazardous task. It's important to understand the applicable NEC requirements and to follow them carefully. If you're not comfortable performing the work yourself, it's best to hire a qualified electrician. A qualified electrician can ensure that the installation is safe, compliant, and reliable. They can also handle the permit and inspection process, saving you time and hassle. When choosing an electrician, be sure to check their credentials and references. Make sure they are licensed and insured, and that they have experience working with breaker boxes and other electrical equipment. Get a written estimate before starting any work, and be sure to ask about their warranty policy. Following these tips can help you ensure that your breaker box replacement project is a success. In summary, replacing a breaker box involves understanding and adhering to several key NEC requirements. These include the minimum clearance distance from water sources, the length and routing of the incoming lead line, accessibility, ventilation, and permit requirements. By following these guidelines and hiring a qualified electrician if necessary, you can ensure that your electrical panel installation is safe, compliant, and reliable. Always prioritize safety when working with electricity. If you're not sure about something, ask a qualified electrician. Electricity is a powerful force, and it should be treated with respect. By taking the necessary precautions, you can protect yourself, your family, and your property from electrical hazards. Remember, the information provided here is for general guidance only and should not be considered a substitute for professional advice. Always consult with a qualified electrician or building inspector for specific guidance on your project. The NEC is a complex and constantly evolving document. It's important to stay up to date on the latest requirements to ensure that your electrical installations are safe and compliant. You can access the NEC online or through your local library. You can also attend training courses and seminars to learn more about electrical safety and code compliance. Investing in your knowledge of electrical safety is a wise investment that can pay off in the long run. It can help you prevent accidents, save money, and ensure the safety of your home and family. So, take the time to learn about electrical safety and code compliance, and always prioritize safety when working with electricity. Electrical safety is everyone's responsibility. By working together, we can create a safer environment for ourselves and our communities. From the service entrance to the branch circuits, every component of the electrical system plays a critical role in delivering power safely and reliably. Understanding how these components work and how they interact with each other is essential for maintaining a safe and efficient electrical system. Regular inspections and maintenance can help identify potential problems before they become serious hazards. Check your circuit breakers regularly to make sure they are functioning properly. Look for signs of damage, such as cracks, discoloration, or loose connections. If you notice any problems, replace the breaker immediately. Inspect your wiring for signs of wear and tear, such as frayed insulation or exposed conductors. Replace any damaged wiring immediately. Keep flammable materials away from electrical panels and outlets. Never overload circuits by plugging too many appliances into a single outlet. Use surge protectors to protect your electronic equipment from power surges. Install ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCIs, in areas where water is present, such as bathrooms, kitchens, and laundry rooms. GFCIs can help prevent electric shock by quickly cutting off power to a circuit if they detect a ground fault. Teach children about electrical safety. Explain the dangers of playing with electricity and how to avoid electrical hazards. By taking these simple precautions, you can help create a safer environment for yourself, your family, and your community.